Good afternoon, everyone. Father Brett here. Time for us to prepare for the 17th Sunday of Ordinary Time in Year A. What are the readings for this Sunday? Well, the first reading, the Old Testament reading, is taken from the first book of Kings, chapter 3, verse 5, and then verses 7 to 12. This response, psalm, is taken from Psalm 119. The second reading continues our reading of St. Paul's letter to the Romans. We've got quite a bit of that done, but we've got quite a bit still to do. Chapter 8, verses 28 to 30. And then our Gospel reading is taken from St. Matthew, chapter 13, verses 44 to 52. You will remember that for a number of weeks now, this is the third week, we have been reading from this chapter of Matthew's Gospel, chapter 13. You will remember I said it is what we call the parable discourse. And in fact, we read to verse 52, verse 53. If we read verse 53, we will see that the parable discourse comes to an end. Jesus finishes his teaching. So this is the last of the set of parables that we will be covering in this section. In many ways, again, there are a number of parables in our gospel reading for this Sunday, like there were last Sunday. The first two parables, about the treasure in the field and the pearl of great price, are very similar. Sometimes they're called twin parables. And then the parable of the dragnet is similar to what we had with the last week, the darnel and the wheat. So if we recall, the parables are meant to tell us a story, and they've been telling us a story about the kingdom of God. Let's focus on those first two parables, the treasure in the field and the pearl of great price. Let's take for just argument's sake that somebody working in a field and discovers a treasure, most probably is a farmer or a labourer, someone perhaps with not a great deal of means, and yet that person will sell everything to get that field and get the treasure. Pearls, perhaps today we would think things like diamonds and emeralds and those sorts of things are more precious than pearls. But in the time of Jesus, pearls were extremely valuable, very highly prized. And so, if someone wanted a pearl, they would go to great lengths to try and get this great treasure. And so we have images here of people that perhaps don't have great means, giving up everything to achieve this incredible treasure. I wonder how we view this. Do we see these people having joy and excitement about the discovery? Or do we consider their giving up and selling everything as heroic and perhaps weirdly heroic for us? And perhaps that links into the first reading, where God asks Solomon, "What is it I can give you?" What do we want? What do we prize? What do we value? And perhaps the gospel challenges us, and the first reading too challenges us to look at what we consider of great value and what we are willing to give up to achieve this thing that we value. And then, of course, for us as Catholic Christians, is it the kingdom? Is it the gospel? Is it Jesus Christ that we would willingly give up everything for to have? Big challenge, eh? Really challenging question. And for me, that's the sort of theme of our Sunday readings. Okay, let's go to look at that first reading from the book of Kings. Solomon is sleeping, dreaming, in the sanctuary that is at Gibeon. Now, Gibeon was an important sanctuary or holy place at that time. Remember, the temple has not been built in Jerusalem, and so it is a place of great importance for the Jewish faith at that time. And it's what Solomon does is something that was reasonably common in the Middle East at that time. If someone wanted to know what God was asking of them or to have a favor from God, they would quite often go and camp out or sleep over in the temple or the sanctuary of a holy place in order to listen to God through the dreams. So Solomon's doing something that would have been thought acceptable and normal. I don't know too much if we would be so open to people sleeping in the sanctuary around our altars in our churches. Hey, we would think that was a bit strange, but perhaps for them it wasn't strange. And so Solomon, by sleeping there, enters into a dream and a conversation with God, and he asks God for something. He doesn't ask for himself, wealth and power. He asks for wisdom. And God is so pleased that he is able to ask for something like that he gives him huge wisdom, and then wealth and riches flow. But we know, it's not in this reading, but we know that Solomon abuses or misuses this gift. Excuse me, and he becomes rather a harsh ruler of his people. Apparently, he taxed them enormously to get the money to build the temple, and in fact even forced labor on some of the people. And so Solomon was unfaithful in many ways in the use of this gift. And maybe that's a warning to us. Huh? We need to be careful how we use the gifts God gives us. It may not be wisdom, but God gives each and every one of us gifts. How do we use that? How do we use what God has given in the service of the kingdom? Do we misuse those gifts? The second reading from the letter to the Romans may cause us a little bit of difficulty or challenge us. The first part is consoling. Hey, it opens so beautifully. Where is it now? Brethren, we know that in everything God works for good with those who love him. That's really consoling and good to hear. It encourages us. But the second part of that reading, sort of verses 29 and 30, talks about salvation and talks about predestination. And we know that in the church we don't believe in predestination. In other words, God has a set plan, all organized, and he's moving us all around like a chessboard, and that we haven't got freedom, and that everything is going to be organized by God. We don't believe in that. We do have freedom. So what's St. Paul meaning by predestination? We understand that to mean that we all are loved by God, that God has not chosen us so that we can't reject him, but that God has chosen all people to be loved. He loves us all. And love is free. True love is always in freedom. Huh? We can reject that love. So we're not forced to love God, because that wouldn't be love. Okay, but we are predestined for God's love. We are loved by God, whether we like it or not. We can reject that love, but that doesn't stop God loving us. And that love calls us into relationship with God. It calls us to experience justification and then obviously salvation and glorification as children of God. So that's St. Paul's letter is both consoling and challenging for us. So there's some thoughts for this week. I hope that they stimulate your thinking as you prepare for Sunday. I wish you all a very, very happy and blessed Sunday. Keep safe, look after yourselves. Bye-bye.